Nintendo brought a great offering to the console market when the Switch first came out over 5 years ago in 2017, but since then, the console has started to age and desperately needs an upgrade, not just to keep up with the competition, but for the sake of smooth, stable gameplay. Well, their famous game director dropped some recent hints at a new Switch. Let's take a deeper look at it, starting with Shigeru Miyamoto's hint at a new Switch. While questions about a new Switch don't have an answer as of yet, it looks like the famous game director, Shigeru Miyamoto, may have accidentally teased a new version of the console coming out in the near future. The director indirectly revealed that the successor to the Switch might just be on its way. 2023 will mark the 6th year for the current Switch. While it's still selling quite well and may be setting new records, it's time for Nintendo to move forward. While the developers or publishers have made no official announcements for the upcoming hardware, there are a few clues that big-time fans of the console might notice. The biggest of them being that the celebrated game designer and director for Nintendo recently gave us some super important information about the future of the console. Although he mentioned nothing by name, he did leave a very on-the-nose hint for us. According to Reset Era, the game director, while talking about Nintendo's future plans, mentioned several points. He mainly said that the company's strength is in making new games, and that with new hardware, they would love to make more unique games that can't be made anywhere else. Just the fact that he's openly talking about the next console is incredible and surprising, both at the same time. Moving on to the Switch's limitations. This might not be news for both fans and haters of the console, but the humble NVIDIA Tegra X1 chip that the console's rocking is super limited. It was already visible in early exclusives like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 that ran at 720p when docked and still went below 30 FPS. Despite this, most issues are rarely distracting, but after 6 whole years since its release, the cracks that were visible at launch have turned into craters. The issues were easily visible during IGN's Rebecca Valentine's review of the new Pokemon game. The reviewer even said that the experience was garbage, with a whole lot of clipping issues where Pokemon get caught under the ground or in walls, where the camera is locked into an odd angle to show half an empty screen. Now, it's not just Pokemon. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet may be bad examples of how modern games perform on the Switch, but they're not the only ones that do. We've got Bayonetta 3, which targeted the 60 FPS mark with a lot of ambition, but fell short and goes down to 45 FPS and even below it a lot of the time. Not just that, but the port of Sonic Frontiers on the Switch has been scaled back and is mostly running below 30 FPS and suffers from significant object pop-in. It's gone so far that many publishers, such as Square Enix, have given up on ports for the console and are putting out cloud versions that can be streamed on it. Though it's not all bad news. The new Splatoon 3 can manage a stable 60 FPS, though some city sections are at 30 FPS, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 manages to run at a stable 30 FPS, unlike its predecessor. Also, here's a small comfort, but all of these improvements are a small comfort to console fans that have been hoping for games such as Elden Ring or Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 to port over to the Switch. Simply put, such games and many more released on the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 will never come out on the Switch. The gap in capabilities between the console and its competitors is just too large for developers to bridge. It's a problem that surprises no one, especially since the console is 6 years old, and the chip that powers it, the NVIDIA Tegra X1, is even older than that since it first came out in 2015, already a little outdated by the time the console came out. While the revised chip from 2019 did improve efficiency, which led to better battery life for new consoles, the performance stayed the same. Its lackluster performance may be a significant contributor to its sales slowing down. Though Nintendo still blames this on the production and not the demand for it, their explanation doesn't feel complete, mainly since they're routinely restocked at major retailers. Coming up, what would a Switch Pro do for you really? The console's sales decline goes entirely against its dominance in games, such as the new Pokemon Scarlet and Violet games selling 10 million copies just in their first few days.
Let's first go over design of both the Switch and the dock, starting off with the console itself. Design-wise, it sports a significantly bigger screen, slimming down those hideous bezels of the original Switch. It comes in weighing in at...
According to NPD's report last October, 6 out of 20 of the highest-selling games in the US were exclusives on the Switch. Gamers want more exclusives on the console, but prefer them on much better hardware. So what exactly could a Switch Pro bring to the table? Some apparent improvements would have to be in its frame rate and resolution. Let's start with the bad news. A Switch Pro will obviously struggle with 4K at 30 FPS. 60 FPS is just a dream, but the current version is so far behind that even minor improvements would be a godsend. Even the most ambitious games run at only 720p to 900p and still only stick to 30 FPS. A simple bump up to 1080p 60 FPS would be enough of a win. A Switch Pro could also bring new technology, such as HDR and Adaptive Sync. Adaptive Sync could be the best of them if used correctly, and it could help smooth out minor fluctuations in FPS, giving us a much smoother experience. And let's not forget about machine learning, such as NVIDIA's DLSS 2, which can upscale games with some massive results. DLSS 3 can even add new frames with the help of AI, with its performance mode being able to generate 7 out of 8 pixels in a 4K image. Next up, the miracle chip doesn't exist yet. The current chip is an excellent choice for a power-constrained device such as the Switch, at least in theory. But gamers now want an upgrade, and Nintendo certainly wants to boost their sales. An upgraded Switch announcement could be right around the corner. Maybe not. Fans of the console are a little too familiar with hopeful rumors. The Switch Pro was first set to come out in 2019, then in 2020, then in 2021.
The brand new OLED Switch also in this plastic baggie, probably the cleanest it will ever look. So all we have to do is slide it out and we're essentially ready for setup so that you're ready to game to your heart's content.
These rumors were then squashed by the Switch OLED, which came out with a pretty new screen, but with the same internals. The entire situation is further complicated by NVIDIA shifting its gears on Tegra. They first launched it to go against consumer devices with ARM market leaders such as Qualcomm, but it ended up getting stalled. Thus, NVIDIA had to switch up tactics. They changed the lineage to names like Xavier and Orin and focused on more industrial, automotive, and robotics, which focused more on machine learning. The new chips are a much less obvious fit for a handheld gaming console, especially since they have a broader power consumption range and a lot of I/O connectivity. Moving on, not to say it can't happen. The device could very much still come out, especially since NVIDIA's least powerful chips, such as the Jetson Nano and Jetson Orin Nano, have a thermal design that targets power from 5 to 15 watts, perfect for the Switch. The most recent rumors about the Switch Pro talk about customized chips that have been referred to as T239, with the T standing for Tegra, that's based on Orin. This rumor sounds plausible because the die size, cost, and power it draws out are all on target. Not just that, but a variant of Orin Nano could play games at 1080p 60 FPS, though admittedly, they're going to be games that don't demand a lot. Not just that, it brings along the ability to add features fans crave, such as Adaptive Sync, HDR, DLSS, and ray tracing. However, such custom chips take time. The more it needs to be customized, the more time is needed. If the rumors surrounding the chip are true, the two companies probably started working on it in mid-2021. But these recent leaks only show APIs and Linux kernel updates, which isn't as convincing as, let's say, prototype hardware, die shots, or even leaked plans for the chip's production. Finally, we're going to have to wait a bit. The president of Nintendo, Shuntaro Furukawa, has gone on record stating that there isn't going to be any new hardware, at least not in their current fiscal year, that's going to continue on till the 23rd of April. Both Nintendo and NVIDIA may be likely keeping things under wraps and could surprise us with a Switch Pro in the summer of next year, but that would be too aggressive of a timeline for a console that's only slightly been hinted at. It might be time to buckle up for a bit, Nintendo fans. We're at least going to have to deal with questionable performance for another year. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts about the Nintendo Switch? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.